not led to Israel standing down and allowing them to like try to even form a fucking government. Because that is not in the cards. Israel doesn't want that. Israel likes it being incredibly fucking unstable.
Sectarian violence in the country, that looks very much like a situation that the country does not have a grasp on, and it makes it ever more difficult for government forces to reestablish control in an area when Israeli forces say they have no right to be there. Israel has declared a unilateral demilitarized zone in this part of Syria, something the Syrian government says it does not agree to. It is calling on Israel to stop. It is accusing Israel of violating its sovereignty. So you have a tinderbox here, Becky, with foreign intervention from Israel very much exacerbating that situation on the ground. And you heard from my colleague Jeremy as well, more individuals as well potentially going into Syria and adding to that chaos.
Yeah, and I want to be absolutely clear, Jeremy, I'm going to bring you back in, that we are getting reports of barbaric.
Real strong guy. Had a big bounty on you the other day. Big bounty. No longer do I have a bounty on you. Handsome guy, big beard. He's like Zelensky, but also tall and handsome. He's like my Zelensky. The Syrian government has two modes that it can never deviate from: massacring minorities and capitulating to Israel. This is a constant cycle that can only lead towards the collapse of the state.
Attacks on the civilian population in Sueda, and we will get more reporting on that as we move through the next couple of hours. Let's just be quite clear about this. Why are the Israelis...
Dude, look, the Syrian army has begun their withdrawal from Sueda governorate of southern Syria tonight as a part of the agreement brokered by the United States between Druze, Israel, and Syria. Under the agreement, it appears that security forces under the Syrian Interior Ministry will remain in Sueda. But not the Syrian army. They're pulling back the Syrian army. Once again, the HTS forces are or the current Syrian military under the leadership of Jalani is once again capitulating to Israel, which, as we know, Israel's not going to stop. Israel has never stopped until it is forced to.
Israelis getting involved, and why have they vowed to protect the Druze community?
Well, the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar kind of laid it out this morning, saying that there are two primary reasons for Israel intervening in Syria. The first of which, he said, is that Israel is trying to protect itself, that it does not want to allow certain armed elements along its border in that southern part of Syria. So there is a national security interest, they say. The second element, though, which seems to be the most salient one at this moment, is that they say that they have an interest in protecting.
Excuse me, Israel has a right to defend itself by taking over more territory in a sovereign state, Syria. Excuse me. Hello? What do you mean? What did you think that anything different was going to take place? This is, in my opinion, remember when I told you that it's Israel that's holding the wheel now? Like, Israel is playing a much more important role in the grand design for American imperialism in the region. This is a byproduct of that, because I suspect in the past, if they wanted to ensure stability, like actual stability in Syria in a way that benefits both Israel in the long run and also America's interest in the long run, they would just pack this up and they would tell Israel to stand the fuck down. Okay. They would tell Israel to stand down, let Syria become this new like HTS backed government, and let Turkey have a lot more control over what happens in Syrian affairs, because ultimately Turkey is also America's as actor here. But it doesn't work like that any longer. Now Israel gets to drive the car. And this is the outcome. Israel could end the war in Gaza, sit and talk with Syria and Saudi Arabia, and even manage its issues with Turkey through direct channels it already has. But Netanyahu chooses to distract his public from the corruption trial by keeping Israel in perpetual war. I mean, it's not just that. It's not just that. It's also because like this is a direct strike against like Turkish involvement in the region as well. Yeah, Ragıp Soylu, no, I mean, all disrespect, I guess, is a little bit of a Erdogan lackey. Let's be real.
Protecting the minority Druze community in Syria, citing strong bonds that Israel has with the Druze community. And what's important to also understand is that the Druze community is not a monolith. First of all, the Druze are a religion. They live in Syria, they live in Israel, they live in Lebanon as well. And there are very much differences, not only between the Syrian Druze and the Israeli Druze, the Lebanese Druze, but also within the Syrian Druze community itself. There are several prominent clerics within the Syrian Druze community, one of whom has very openly allied himself with Israel and has had communication with the spiritual leader of the Druze here in Israel. And there has been a constant back and forth there, including with that cleric requesting support and assistance from the Israelis. The Israeli Druze community here, as well as the Syrian Druze who live in the Golan Heights, some of whom have Israeli citizenship, but most of whom do not. They have, of course, a very, very strong affinity with the Syrian Druze community in Syria proper, and have felt extraordinarily concerned over the course of the last several months as they have witnessed attacks being carried out on that Druze community, especially in this city of Sueda. We have seen Israeli Druze members of the military protesting at the border, saying that they want to go there and fight to defend their Syrian Druze brothers. The Israeli government, of course, carrying out these strikes, but also urging those Druze individuals in Israel not to cross the border, not to take matters into their own hands. But given some of the images that have been circulating here in Israeli media of some of the attacks that have been carried out on the Druze in Sueda, as you can see, many individuals are feeling compelled to act on their own. And that is why we are seeing these scenes now of hundreds of people crossing into this buffer zone in Syria, which Israel controls, and trying ultimately to get all the way into Syria and to that city of Sueda.
People
Here's some good news. With the revenue in the negatives and a promised 15 million shekel care package that never arrived, the port of Eilat is officially shutting its doors and turning its keys starting next week due to the effects of Yemen's naval blockade. Victory for the Houthi rebels over the state of Israel. The Yemeni terrorist organization has managed to achieve against the current Israeli government what Egypt failed to achieve at its peak. The port of Eilat will be completely closed starting next week. The official reason for the closure announcement is a seizure imposed by the Eilat municipality on the port's accounts, which have accumulated property tax debts totaling several 100,000 shekels. This is after its revenues, which stood at hundreds of millions of shekels a year, have dropped to almost zero since the Houthi rebels began attacking global shipping, especially that en route to Israel shortly after October 7, 2023. Excuse me when I say I stand 10 toes down in this regard. Economic pressure is clearly the most pacifist option here. Okay? It's true. It's real. Perhaps that is the reason why so many people get so mad when I talk about the Houthis and the Ansar Allah administration creating an environment where there is economic pressure being placed upon the Israeli society broadly. It has to happen. This is what BDS is. This is what boycott, divestment, and sanctions are. This is the most peaceful solution to Israel's unlimited violence. And yet many people don't want to take that option. Here is Bonzer-Berry. Victory for the Houthi rebels over the state of Israel. The Yemeni organization has managed to achieve against the current Israeli government what Egypt failed to achieve at its peak. This is from Walla. The port of Eilat will be completely closed starting next week. We already covered that. This is after its revenues. We stood at hundreds, or covered that as well. Worth noting that Rashrash Eilat has been effectively closed for 19 months now because not Eilat, Eilat, sorry, has been effectively closed for 19 months now because of Yemen's operations against Israel. 80% of its revenues were lost in 2024. Okay. Yet you are using Windows and Microsoft product. Microsoft is a priority BDS target. No, it's not. Xbox gaming, like Microsoft gaming division is. Anyway, shut the fuck up. Don't come to me with this shit. Not even as a joke. All right. Because there's so much misinformation on this stuff, and I think it's by design. A lot of people do this specifically to be like, dude, what are you going to do about that? I can't stand the Houthis, but they're doing the right thing here. Everyone has the responsibility to do what they can to stop this, and they're using their strategic position to do right here. Critical support on this specifically. Yeah, even Cloud District Enjoyer, who is a bit of a fucking lib when it comes to this kind of stuff, who initially used to yell at me all the time because I kept saying over and over again that what they're doing is the correct thing here, has now come on board. There it is. This is what you do when you actually recognize as a genocide, regardless of your own personal opinions on the matter. I'm not a lib, and I didn't do that. Yes, you did. We can literally see your old statements in the chat. But it's okay, because you at least you do recognize that it's a genocide. Everyone that says it's a genocide, but what the Houthis are doing is wrong, does not actually recognize it's a fucking genocide. Because if they did, they would be like, yeah, of course, critical support to the Houthis for blockading the Red Sea. Of course. What do you mean? What the fuck are people supposed to do? Anyway, in all honesty, you should ditch as much closed source software as you can. Okay, dude. Yeah, I can't even fucking run a normal stream with the existing software that I have, and you want me to learn Linux. Get out of here. Eilat isn't just Israel's gateway to the east. It's also a strategic port to the Israeli Navy. The port crew and equipment help dock and service naval ships, including the ones that are part of the multi-layer missile defense in the south. Anyway. Where was I? Where was I? Consider the new PC an opportunity to switch to Firefox and get back with the ads and shit? No. Oh, here. This is footage, by the way. Can't wait for some Israeli to send me 7 pages worth of text explaining how this was justified and not a war crime due to minor technicalities in the Geneva Convention because undefined border. Even you got like pro-Ukraine accounts shitting on Israel now.
وزير الدفاع الاحتلال الإسرائيلي إسرائيل كاتس إن الجيش سيواصل مهاجمة قوات.
So yeah, great situation overall. What is this? HD Hussein Doro. Oh, this guy is the guy who was sanctioned by the EU and is like now officially stateless, which is crazy. Thread, what's happening? in Syria and how it's part of West's redesign for the entire Middle East. A new Syrian civil war is breaking out. This time it's not fueled by proxy war between U.S. and Russia. The U.S. is now backing all sides. Syria's self-appointed transitional government led by Jalani/al-Shara, backed by the United States, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, UAE, under the pretext of protecting the Druze and Qatar. Under the pretext of protecting the Druze, Israel always moves with American approval. So America is de facto also on this side. Could longtime U.S. allies, the Kurds, enter the fray? Until now, the U.S. has allowed al-Shara's sectarian pogroms against the Alawites and Christians, even rewarding him by lifting sanctions and removing his terrorism designation. Alman Türk, evet. Hüseyin Doğru. He's a German Turk who is now, I think, like, he's in like this unique, impossible situation where like he's completely sanctioned by the EU. Now that Russia is out of Syria, minorities are desperately looking for a new powerful ally to help them. Today, it's the Druze under siege by al-Shara's thugs, and they have nowhere to turn but towards Israel. Israel, in turn, seeks further settler colonialist expansionism along its Syria border. I don't know if it's like directionally violence that the Druze are subjected to by al-Shara or Jalani's like brigades themselves, or that Jalani simply does not have any control over a lot of these paramilitaries. Because he's just like effectively a puppet for Western interests and has no real popular support. Like some people who are maybe a little pro-Assad will make it seem as though he's like, make it seem as though this is like deliberate and that he is doing the massacres himself. It's, I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if he's like, because I can't see any reason for him to deliberately engage in this kind of ethnic cleansing of the Druze population or creating any sort of sectarian fighting in the region, because you have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, well, enlighten me. Maybe you have more ideas. Here, Israel is right. No, Israel's never right. Israel is always wrong. Anyway. But an overt Israeli presence across Syria isn't feasible. And while al-Shara was the easiest way to end Assad plus Russia plus the resistance axis presence, he is full of limitations for the U.S. Powerful elements within al-Shara's ranks are unpredictable and hostile to the West. Al-Shara's regime also lacks popular support across Syria, while neighboring countries like Lebanon and Iraq are wary. This is where the Kurds come in. The Kurds are the biggest armed non-state army in the region, spread across 4 countries with the U.S. as vital interests, Syria, Iran, Iraq, and Turkey. They have more than 10 years of nonstop war experience, including fighting side by side with U.S. forces. But most importantly, for the U.S., the Kurds are pro-Western, and while sometimes critical, crucially, they are not hostile to Israel. In the wake of Assad's overthrow, analysts talked of a David corridor linking Israeli-controlled Golan Heights to Kurdish territory in Syria's north. Today, and this is something that Turkey does not want. Okay. This is something that Turkey does not want. Turkey wants to control all of the Kurdish militias in the region. Okay. And does not want them to be under any sort of American control. And as a NATO ally, if the interest was like permanent stability, they would probably allow Turkey to do that. And there was some leeway in this direction as the PKK disbanded and disarmed. And that was a gift from America to Turkey, in my opinion, a gift that they gave to Turkey specifically so that specifically so that Erdogan could like secure a big victory after all that he did for Syria, in terms of overthrowing the Assad regime. And yet Israel has different motivations, it seems. And I think that's what's going on here, which is that like Israel wants to have the Kurdish militias on their side. Considering that the Turks in the past, like the Turkish militias, Turkish military in the past, has literally fought America because of the Kurdish emancipatory movement broadly and their militia movements in the region broadly, I suspect that they're not going to sit idly by and quietly and allow Israel to control Kurdish militias and use them in whatever way they see fit, especially when this connective land bridge would basically be in the border region of southern Turkey, the northern Syrian corridor. Today, HasanAbi, the leader of the Kurdish-led SDF, said the Druze have asked his forces to enable safe passage for civilians. Such a passage would likely follow the same route as the proposed David corridor. So the northern Syrian corridor that Turkey has literally fucking bombed into oblivion and have de facto control over, Israel wants to overtake. Okay? One possible scenario is that the U.S. welcomed the sectarian pogroms by al-Shara's force against minorities like the Alawites controlled chaos. Now both Alawites and the Druze, who were previously ambivalent at best towards the Kurds, can call on them for protection. In this way, the U.S. is engineering the Kurds to become increasingly influential in the new state apparatus so that apparatus can be more stable and pro-Western. In turn, this would enable a stable corridor connecting Syria to Kurdish territories in Iraq and Iran, thereby positioning the U.S. squarely at Iran's door, the final destination where it seeks regime change to secure total regional hegemony. Except that corridor also presents a threat for Turkey. Okay? That's because Turkey doesn't fuck with Iran. Turkey hates Iran. Let's be real. Ironically enough, what Israel is trying to do is basically a reverse Iran situation where Iran had a logistical corridor in Syria that connected Iran to Lebanon so they could arm Hezbollah. Israel wants to do the reversal and use the Kurdish militias in an effort to connect all of the existing Kurdish militias as a vehicle to further cause instability in Iran. Because remember, while the shit was popping off in Iran, I talked about how while America was striking Iran and things were popping off in Iran, the one group to look out for, as I always said, was the Kurdish movement, the Kurdish nationalist forces in Iran. Dude, what are you talking about? Did you do your own research? What? Yes. What are you? Why do people come in here and they go, dude, I don't understand what you're saying. You're actually wrong. And then they never actually fucking end up telling me what the problem is. W, rage bait completed. You need to finish One Piece. Okay, take a day off. The reason why it's frustrating for me is because, like, I might get something wrong. I might actually misspeak, for example, and I don't want to do that. So if there's like someone who is coming to the table with different information, I welcome that. So whenever someone comes in and is like, you're actually wrong on this, I'm like, okay, explain why. And it's frustrating. But they just go, you're wrong. And then they fucking don't say anything else. They just say, you're wrong, and then they move on. And it's very frustrating. Finally, in this scenario, the unprecedented decision by the PKK to lay down their arms against Turkey serves an important purpose. The U.S. needs to calm on the Turkish-Kurdish front so that the Kurdish forces can be redirected towards Iran. This is why Abdullah Öcalan, PKK-affiliated Syrian, Iraqi, and Iranian Kurds were excluded from the PKK disarmament, a detail which Turkey and the U.S. has been relatively quiet about. All that being said, Syria faces the bloodshed like it has never seen. For starters, al-Shaddad's forces, now unleashed, won't be easy to put back in their box.